Welcome to the Breathe Belief podcast show where I am your host, Bree, and I am so excited and really grateful to get to talk to you about really amazing deep things. So I really like to go deep. If you don't know who I am, again, I'm Bree, and I don't like superficial conversation. So let's go deep, shall we? Okay, so blueprints and beliefs are going to be the idea and concepts we talk about today. Because once I understood this, I can honestly say this is where the facts of my life actually changed, where I could look myself in the mirror and actually recognize a different person than who I was. So there's many philosophies and books that we can regurgitate and repeat and rinse off, right? Like a lot of people like to consume knowledge and then go share what they learned and then regurgitate it to their own understandings and then repeat it and give it to someone else. But I'm talking about the experience part. And if you've gone through heartache, you know what I'm talking about. There is a different type of learning between I read it and I experienced it. So I hope to convey that passion through this podcast, because if you've gone through some really dark things, dark and deep, then you know, not from reading, but you know from an understanding that life can give you the most crucial, most painful cards and deal you some things that you're really not ready for if you're not self-aware. So I'm a coach. I teach self-awareness. If you have no idea what consciousness is, I am obsessed with the truth and the reality that not all things that we experience are done to us. I am a creator in the way that I view experiences in past trials as its greatest lesson learned. In fact, you've heard from my other episodes, I've gone through 2 divorces by the age of 26 so that I could overcome the pain and the destruction that happens when there's no self-love, there's no boundaries, there's no self-awareness, and there's a blueprint running in the background of your life that you don't understand. So I'm going to go vulnerable because vulnerability is what connects us as human beings. Because I'm not here to regurgitate what I read in last week's book, although I will tell you there are so many awesome things that happen when one person shares their pain with another human being. And perspective is everything, because the lens that you see the world through and the lens I see through won't be the same, but we have a mutual understanding in the experiences that we've gone through. And by being self-aware, we can reclaim our self-worth. And I've shared before, self-worth doesn't come from doing. It doesn't come from achievement. Self-worth is something that is produced internally. And so much of my life was so much of my life was spent unconsciously with actions I didn't really understand the motivations behind them. I quit an 8-year career and was working at a sales company, was one of the top producers, loved that life, and I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And at the time I was going through my second divorce, I was raised in early childhood in a very religious home. I was a believer of God. I knew that I had multiple family members to rely on, and I had values of family. And if you can relate to that, say I, right? Like some of us really value that interpersonal connection with family. And really, like if we don't have relationships, what do we have? So the idea and concept of a blueprint and being conscious of what's happening inside of your life is so important, because there will be an experience that happens that you may not be ready for, and you're going to believe that you're the victim to the circumstance if you're not aware of your participation in it. I coach women and get them out of abusive, toxic relationships. And by definition, toxic is anything that is not up to par with your fulfillment and your fullest happiness. It is not pulling in partners to feel good. It is not pulling in someone hot so that you feel like you're seen. It is not pulling in someone for the carnal desire of just sex alone. It is not using someone because they make great money and have an awesome income. It is not pulling in someone so that you don't feel lonely. It is not codependency where you lose your identity by giving everything that you have into another human being and putting your life on the back burner. Relationships are a direct reflection of what you learned in your earliest childhood. I am a byproduct of parents that got divorced multiple times. I have 3 sets of parents, including, step parents and such. What I'll tell you is that there's always a blessing in the experience, but you have to have the perspective that you created it. So what do I mean? Well, when I went through my second divorce, I was convinced, like most people, he was my soulmate. Like, he did things for me that I wasn't willing to do for myself. Like, I didn't even really like me, but oh my gosh, did he make me feel seen, and did he listen? And when I was around him, I was able to put my defenses down, like my guards came down. And so I had projected all of these amazing qualities onto what I thought was going to be the most amazing spouse. By projection, that's just a word that we use when really what we're seeing in someone else is a reflection of what's going on inside of us internally. So think about it like an actual projector. If I'm seeing something in you, it's only because it's happening or I have it within me. Like, you know the saying, like, if you spot it, you got it. That's exactly what's happening. So I attracted partners through the lens of love. And I was super sweet. I mean, I was that person that had no boundaries and gave up my whole life for them and always wanted them happy and made sure they felt good. And like creating this identity almost of like a savior's complex where I would save and rescue him anytime he was in trouble or in need or wanted someone. And really that's selfish. If you're doing that, by the way, and you're married or you're dating someone, you have a big ego to look at, because that tells them that they're not capable of taking care of themselves. By you enabling them, you're communicating to them quietly that they're not capable, right? And so we create relationships on all kinds of crazy fallacies and all kinds of crazy stories that we make up. Like, how crazy is that? So I went and found a coach, and she said to me, the abuse happens when you let him inside the house. The abuse doesn't happen when he's at home doing the abuse. The abuse happens when you let him in the house. And when I heard that, you could imagine all of the emotions: anger, rage, pissed off. Are you freaking kidding me? Waste of money, like all of the thoughts. So I'm gonna suggest that you be open-minded to what I'm about to tell you really loudly. The abuse, if you're experiencing it, is a byproduct of the way you treat yourself. Because when a woman loves herself, and I mean freaking loves herself, she does not tolerate or even allow herself into the presence of someone that's not an energetic match. And if you're pulling in that pattern or that behavior, it's because you have a program that is running in the back of your mind that you're not even aware of. So instead of using the fancy word subconscious, I'll just let you know there's a pattern that you're being ran on from what you were given at birth. So I want you to imagine and ask yourself, like, who the heck would you be before the world got their hands on you? Who would you be if you were raised in a home with 2 sets of parents? I'm sorry, 1 set of parents, a mom and a dad, and you had unconditional love, not conditional, unconditional love, and they had the full capacity to nurture you and let you be authentic. Most of us weren't given that. And do you know why? Our parents aren't to blame, because they were given a set of tools, like you were and I were, that they had to learn from as well. So it's interesting, because we have this idea that we're just broken. Like, raise your hand right now if you're driving to work, whatever you're doing, stop and ask yourself, were you given all of the tools that you needed at childhood to actually get where you want to be? Right? Like, ask yourself, was I given all of the tools? My favorite analogy to this is the idea that your parents had 1 crayon and they gave you a blue or a green or a yellow and they handed it to you and you're like, well, I want the whole rainbow. And they're like, no, we only do blue in this house, right? So you go your whole life thinking that the rainbow is not possible, but what you didn't know is that you were just given a blueprint and it said color in the lines with only the blue crayon. And I love that analogy, because it's not that the other crayons in the rainbow and the possibilities aren't there. It's that you need the support from other people that have the tools that you're looking for. So a blueprint is the best way to say, hey, you're not the person that you think that you are. The circumstances are just a byproduct of what's happening around you. Okay? Now, if you'll take accountability for your life, and I mean, I'm talking to freaking powerful people out there, not the ones that want to stay in excuses. If you understand that you helped create this pattern and that other person is not just to blame, and you can take accountability for why you were attracted to it in the first place, you actually have choice. Like I said, I was raised in a very religious upbringing and believe in God, and was told my whole life that I had agency. I was told my whole life that I would have the power to choose. And when I went through this awakening with a divorce, if you've ever gone through that, it is the most painful tear apart when you've bonded with someone that you really thought was going to last forever. You grieve a lot of, hopes and ideas and dreams, and there's a shedding that happens in that process. And I was taught that I had agency. How many of you were taught, okay, you get to decide, you get to choose? And the more awoke I become internally, the more I hired coaches and mentors to help me understand the blueprint and to help me understand subconscious and the way the brain actually works. I got it. I finally understood. There's no choice when you're not awake, when you're not conscious. There's no choice, because you're just running on a pattern that you've had since childhood, and you believe that relationships look this way and money works this way, and success looks like this, and to be loved you've got to be this, and you grow up putting on these different masks. And by masks I mean identities that aren't actually you, but as you grew up, you got praised for doing certain things, and then you got shamed for doing certain things based on the people that were in your environment, okay? So the more that I understood that process, I really began to understand what agency actually meant. And so I want you to look at the things in your life that you're not actually satisfied with. With most women I coach, it's the relationship, right? We're pulling in toxic partners. We're codependent. We think we're half a person. We don't think that we're strong and nurturing. It's one or the other. We're limited in what we think our role is in society. And then we judge other women that have what we want, who are beautiful and who have everything. And then we have a jealous, judgment of her because they're not living the way that we think they should. And the word should by itself implies shame. And when I understood that, I started to internally change my dialogue. So how many times a day are you thinking, I should do this and I shouldn't do that? That one concept alone will rock your world. So I dare you to go practice that after this episode. But I want to leave you with this. If you're challenged in an area of your life that you're not satisfied with, another book isn't going to work. Another program that tells you to just be positive all the time isn't going to work, because you're trying to bypass going through the experience. And like we said in the beginning, that is not the same as head knowledge. Like going through something and reading something just to regurgitate it are not the same thing. So because I've experienced that pain, I can help you transition through what it looks like to actually become independent, and to screw the idea that there is somehow the one out there, because you get to become the one. And we don't want to swing the pendulum and assume that we can be independent and we don't need a partner and forget that and go into this masculine identity where we're just lying to ourselves, right? We don't want to bypass the pain either, but we do get to have choice, and we do get to have freedom when we become conscious. And I teach those steps. I teach the exact blueprint that got me out of pain into pleasure, that got me from 2 divorces into an amazing relationship where every day is play. Like 2 years ago, if you would have told me I'd be in a relationship today where I got to play, where I got to have fun, where I got to be me, where I could just create what I wanted to, and it wasn't based off what everyone else thought I should do, I would laugh at you, right? Because we're so serious and we're so focused on getting to where we're going that we don't even question what we believe. We don't even wonder if there's more. We're so limited in the way that we see, and we're like the horses on a freaking racetrack with our blinders on, and so we don't even know who's to the side of us. But I want to dare you to reach out. And I use the word dare because you've also got a part of your brain that says, hey, the pain's not that bad. I mean, at least we know what to expect. At least I know that I'm comfortable and I'm complacent, and, this relationship may not be the best. The job may not be fulfilling. I mean, the person may treat me crappy, but at least it's not that bad. And that's a freaking lie. And I love telling the truth because anytime truth comes out, you could probably get triggered first before you recognize there's a message and a nugget behind it. So I'm really excited. I have an event coming up. I'm open for a few more spots on one-on-one coaching. I want to empower you to reclaim your self-worth. Once you have that and you know the blueprint to run on, you get to leave behind what you learned in childhood. You get to be independent. You get to be authentic, and you get to have freaking fun doing it. And everybody wants sovereignty. Everybody wants to say that they have that. And once you start making definitions of words for yourself, all of a sudden you're in the world, but you're not of the world, right? Because you don't have to believe what you've been told. You don't have to believe that life is hard. You don't have to believe that. It's easy to believe that when that's all you've experienced. So now we need to create a new experience to dive into what actually is possible. So I'm available to that. I'm available to committed women who are very aware that change and transition, it hurts and it's painful and it can be sticky and it can be trying, but I'm available to get you out of that crap because you deserve more. And if this is speaking to your soul and you're like, I don't know what she's saying, but it sounds good, go to BrieMarie.com, BRI Marie, MARIE.com. I also have an Instagram. It's Brie Breeze Belief, and we can connect there. Reach out. Tell me what your experience has been. Tell me what you're trying to change, and let's make a connection from that. So until then, I'll see you next time. Woo. Yes. And then that's exactly what's going to happen. It's like,